Hello.
Hello.
Okay. I guess we can probably just start and I can fill people in as they go. Um, okay. So, okay. So I bought this node with Georgetown's money, which is great. It's essentially a computer size of my hand and then a 1 terabyte hard drive. So not that much data. 1 terabyte hard drive is like $80. I know. But on it, I have my full Bitcoin node, which I can manage here. I have a Lightning node, which I can explain later, and then some other services, including Tor and VPN, which are privacy-focused services, and then some apps, which I can also explain later. Um, but firstly, Bitcoin, it's a blockchain, so there are lots of blocks, each with lots of transactions in them. So every block is 1 megabyte large and contains around 2 to 2.5 thousand transactions. Um, and the way the Bitcoin network works is it's decentralized. So every member of the network stores the entire history. So I store every single block starting from 2008, which is when Bitcoin began, all the way to today. And about every 10 minutes, I receive a new one from the network. And then I add that to the uh, blockchain. So if you see here, this is just a simple folder. This is where I store all the blocks, and those are the blocks right there. Um, each one of these files is actually a collection of about 150 blocks, but there are the blocks. Here are the indexes where I keep all the transactions, and then here's my wallet, and I don't have any money on this wallet. So that's essentially what the blockchain looks like. You can look at each block, but it's kind of all you'll see is binary, so it's not worth looking at the actual files. But the way Bitcoin works is you can use the command line to actually analyze the blockchain without looking and reading through each file. So I ran this command, get tx out set info, and this tells me how many pieces of Bitcoin there are. So there are 66 million individual pieces of Bitcoin of varying sizes, and then the total amount down here, which is 18 million. So there are 18 million Bitcoins in existence as of block number 644,586. And those 18 million are divided into 66 million pieces of completely unequal size. And the network has processed 40 million transactions since the beginning. So that's pretty cool. And then here you can see it's around 400 gigabytes of data. And that'll range depending on your version size and your computer size. So this is an estimate of how much space MyNode takes up on my computer. Just to be clear, I'm on my Mac right now. I have a node on this Mac, and then this node, which I'm accessing over the internet, is connected downstairs. So this is a different node. It has a lot of visual interfaces so that you can see what's happening instead of using the command line. So if I hit manage here, I should see a visual representation of what I just showed you here. And using this command line interface, I can find any transaction, any block, etc. in the Bitcoin blockchain, which is pretty cool because that's what allows you to use and send and receive Bitcoins without trusting any kind of bank or company to hold your money. So it's really important that if you use Bitcoin, you use your own node, because otherwise you end up returning to trusting another party. So sorry, my Mac is pretty slow. I'm using an old Mac too. Okay. So you can see this Bitcoin status. So the number of blocks is roughly the same as here. This I ran a few minutes ago. So there have been 2 blocks since I last ran it. Disk usage is a bit different because I'm on version 19 of Bitcoin. So it saves some space. And here are my peers. So the way Bitcoin nodes collect all the blocks for the blockchain is by relaying them from each other. So I'm connected to, I don't know, 20-ish other Bitcoin nodes. And whenever they receive a block, they send it to me. And whenever I receive a block, I send it to them. And that way we are all on the same page. So if you can see, some of these are regular IP addresses, and some of them are onion addresses, meaning they're connected over Tor. So there's no way they can identify me and I can't identify them. It's great for privacy, and also just, yeah, more security. Here you see Bitcoin version. So unlike with the Apple Store, Bitcoin will never force you to upgrade, which is awesome. So all their upgrades are backwards compatible, and they'll never say, oh, this iPhone doesn't work with the newest version. So that's great, because if you start a node and then abandon it for, say, 10 years, you can come back and it'll still work, and it will still verify exactly what it's supposed to verify. So that's a great thing about Bitcoin, is that you don't have to upgrade all at the same time. Some people can upgrade, some people can adopt different features, and other people can say, I don't like that feature, I don't want to upgrade to it. So that's an important part of Bitcoin. And then here are the last few blocks. Every block comes in roughly around 10 minutes. It's all probability based. So for example, this one came in, there was a 30-minute gap between these 2 blocks, 30-minute gap between these 2, but then 15 and 2 minutes. So it's random. So that's how it goes. 2,000 transactions is a good average. And then the size in kilobytes. So this is 1.5 megabytes. So this block, if I can find it in my Bitcoin folder, and then it'll be 1.5 megabytes. So that's the full Bitcoin node. There are a lot of things you can do with it. If you ever want to find a transaction, send a transaction, generate a receive address to allow you to receive Bitcoin, a Bitcoin node can do all that pretty easily. But this node that we bought for Georgetown has quite a bit of other features. So we have a Lightning node. Lightning allows Bitcoin, so if you see these blocks, they come every 10 minutes. Ideally, you don't want to wait 10 minutes for very small transactions. So Lightning allows you to make instant and free transactions instead of relying on the blockchain, which only settles transactions roughly every 10 minutes. So Lightning's it's a trade-off between less security and more speed and cheap transactions. So that is trade-off.
Why?
Yeah.
Why would Lightning be cheaper than this though? Because this is free, right?
So in terms of sending a transaction, that's not free. You have to pay the people who verify the transaction, meaning the miners. So the person who created this block, he got rewarded because every single transaction in it paid a small fee, some bigger than others. And so the higher fee rate you pay, the more likely miners will include your transaction in their block. So it's kind of like bidding for the speed of your transaction to get processed. But with Lightning, you don't rely on a miner to verify your transaction. You transact directly with the other person, and there's no verification. So it's pretty great in that way, but it does have the drawback of there are some security trade-offs. Nothing critical, but if you want an absolute final irreversible transaction, you should use the Bitcoin network, not the Lightning network. Okay, so this is the Lightning node I have. I actually haven't put any money into it. Um, but you can see that I have 3 peers, and if I put money into my Lightning wallet, I can send these people money directly, and they can send me money directly instantly for almost no fee. And the great thing about a Lightning network is if I'm not directly connected with someone, then um, say there are 3 people and only 2 of them are connected, the third person can send money. So person A can send money to person C via person B. So it's kind of like a network where you hand someone $5 and then they hand the next person $5 and so on until it reaches its destination. But thanks to cryptography and some other cool computer science concepts, none of those people who are handing money off can take the money. They only take a tiny % fee if they charge it. Some people will do that for free just to help the network. So that's how it works. So this is really cool. It's pretty experimental. People don't use this for business as much as personal use, maybe some online stores. But it's still getting built, so it's not exactly ready to handle the full infrastructure. But it's one of the ways in which Bitcoin is going to be used as an actual medium exchange instead of just a store of value. So some people will say Bitcoin isn't fast enough or Bitcoin can't scale to the full scale required to be a global money, but it's things like Lightning and other systems that are going to help it do that. So through our node, we have BTCPayServer. This is going to allow us to set up a merchant store. So we can set up an online store and accept Bitcoin really easily, which is awesome because if we were to try to set up a store and accept US dollars, we'd have to go through a lot of licensing and bank accounts and just general regulation. But with the BTCPayServer, it's a couple of clicks, and anyone who visits our website can hit the pay button, choose their amount, and then pay from their own wallet in a very secure way. And again, BTCPayServer is not actually a company. It's just a couple people who produced a bunch of code, and it allows you to get your money directly. So no one ever holds on to your money in transit. So it's not like PayPal or Patreon in that PayPal or Patreon can confiscate your money or cancel your account at any point. This is completely different. So it's part of Bitcoin's ethos of censorship resistance and also like sovereignty in that you own your money at all times and you're not relying on someone else to hold your money for you. So it's a pretty big advance in that sense because previously everyone who wanted to make money on the internet had to rely on PayPal or Patreon. Okay. So this app will allow us to visualize the blockchain. It helps you. It's a bit slow, so I prefer to use a different blockchain explorer. But any blockchain explorer online, such as blockchain.com or blockstream.info, they'll show you a visual representation of the blockchain, which is great because it helps people understand an otherwise abstract concept. And then Dojo and Whirlpool are pretty awesome. These help you privatize your Bitcoin. So if you have Bitcoin, you can mix it with other Bitcoins and end up with a Bitcoin that has no trace of its previous owners or its past affiliations. So if you make money selling drugs on the internet, you can use Whirlpool to sort of clean that money. It's completely legal for now. So that's what's awesome about it. I use it sometimes. I use some other similar services, but
To make drug money?
sorry?
To make drug money?
No, not at all. I use it for legal purposes. I would never
That
do anything
sucks.
illegal.
100%?
That sucks.
100% all my Bitcoin is legally obtained.
That sucks, Sachin. Seriously.
Yeah. But if you there are other reasons other than doing illegal things that you'd want privacy. For example, if you don't want people to know you own Bitcoin, you could use one of these services for your own safety, I guess. So these apps are all included with the MyNode, which is a special type of Bitcoin node produced by the company MyNode. So that's great. But if you run your own node, you can just download these apps separately and they'll all work together quite easily. Yeah, so that's about everything there is to a Bitcoin node. It's actually quite simple. It's even simpler to run. It's a simple download and then 2 or 3 clicks. You download the software, you start it up, and for example, on this Mac, no, you don't even know I'm running it. All you have to do is, so I'm going to stop it, and then I'm going to restart it up with that one command, and it just runs in the background, collects all my blocks, and if I ever want to search up a block or a transaction, I just type it in. So that's all there is to a Bitcoin node. It's kind of in the background, and then all these services that you see here are built on top of it. All these services, BTCPayServer, RTL, stands for Ride the Lightning, Dojo, Whirlpool, Explorer, these all connect back to my Bitcoin node. They're all separate apps that connect to my Bitcoin node, read each of the blocks, and verify that their services are working properly and that I have all the Bitcoin I think I have. So that's how it works. It's all running on my computer, so there's no trust of a bank. There's no trust in like PayPal or Venmo or the US government even. So it's pretty cool in that way. When people tell you you received a Venmo payment, you have to trust Venmo that you actually did and that they're not going to take it back as soon as you close your phone. But with Bitcoin, you can trust that you've actually received a payment and that it's irreversible. So it can never be taken back without you expressly sending it outwards. So
How does escrow work on this? Like how does escrow work?
Escrow. So escrow is more of a legal service that you set up in terms of you can give money to someone else and they'll hold it and they're legally bound not to spend it or do other things with it. So escrow is more of a legal situation than a financial situation, but there are ways of creating escrow within Bitcoin. So to send a normal Bitcoin transaction, you need a private key and you need to sign the transaction with the private key. But sometimes you can have Bitcoin that you can send to a wallet that requires 3 keys instead of 1 to sign. So then 3 different people could hold 3 different keys, and the Bitcoin could only be sent if all 3 people cooperated to send it. So in that way, it could be like an escrow, where, say, every member of a board of a company owns 1 key, and you require 50% of those keys to sign. So you have like a democracy of sorts, and they can spend, but no one else can spend. And one person can't steal all the funds from the company treasury or whatever. So there are lots of, it's all based on code. So there are lots of ways that you can manipulate this stuff and create new situations that tailor your desire. So for a board, they could have maybe every board member gets a key and the president gets a master override key because the president is allowed to spend however he wants. Or you could just have 2 people enter a bet, 1 arbiter. So each person in the bet has 1 key and the arbiter has 1 key, and 2 are required to spend the Bitcoin. So that if one person tries to cheat out of the bet, the arbiter and the honest person can collaborate and withdraw the money successfully. So again, lots of basically infinite ways of configuring Bitcoin so that either 1 person can own it, 3 people, 2 of 3 people, a majority, whatever you want, really. Yeah, so any other questions about nodes, how to run a node? If anyone is interested, I'll probably show you how to run a node just because I'm going to post this on YouTube afterwards. So I'll just post a video of how to download a node, start running it, and then stuff like that. So any other questions?
So is running a node, would that be kind of like being a validator? And like, does that make the network stronger or?
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So every block that a miner produces could have an invalid transaction. It could have a double spend or stealing Bitcoin from someone or creating new Bitcoin out of thin air illegally. So when you receive a block, your node in the background checks that every transaction is valid and that no new Bitcoin have been created. And then it adds it to the blockchain. So every node here, see I'm connected to about 20 so nodes. When I send them a block, they verify it. And when they send me a block, I verify it. So I don't actually trust what they're saying. I check that everything in there matches up and that it all follows all the rules. So yeah, you're strengthening the network and you're also keeping everyone honest.
So do the actual Bitcoin get transferred only once every single node has verified that the block is like legit, or what is it?
So the actual Bitcoin can only be spent once once they exist on the blockchain. Okay, so a miner creates new Bitcoin every single block, and once that Bitcoin exists, then someone else can point to it, or the miner can point to the Bitcoin they received and say, I'm spending this Bitcoin and I'm sending it here. And then when they say here, that here is an address. So that address is logged in the blockchain. And the next person who received that can point to that address and say, I own these Bitcoin and I'm sending them here. So yes, you can only spend Bitcoin once it's recorded in the blockchain.
And what if like someone receives Bitcoin, but like, or tries to create something and the nodes just deny it? So do those Bitcoin become invalid, or like does the transaction get reversed? And how does it? What is?
So you don't accept transactions independently. You accept blocks. So this is a block. The block has a height. It's number 644568. So there are 644,000 blocks before it. And I accepted this block because my node validated that every transaction in it was valid, all 2,000 of them. So once I accept this block, I will also accept any transaction that tries to spend a Bitcoin in this block. But before I had this block, I didn't know about the Bitcoins that were in this block. So I would have rejected transactions that were in them. But that's only because I didn't know that those Bitcoins existed. So basically, it works so that you never reject you never reject valid Bitcoin transactions because miners won't produce blocks that have invalid transactions, and nodes won't accept blocks that have invalid transactions. So everyone's double checking everyone else's work essentially.
Okay, and what if like there are 3 layers of security that fail, and then the transaction does go through, but like all the nodes are not validated yet?
So
like, hypothetically.
Yeah, so say 99% of nodes accept a block with an invalid transaction because they all colluded or they all changed the source code or there was a bug. If mine is correct and mine is not part of that collusion or that bug, then I reject it and I send a message to everyone who sent me that block. And I say, this block is invalid. I send them an invalid message and they then go back and check it. And if they believe me, they throw out the block. Otherwise, they keep the block. So that's another important reason why if you see these version numbers, they're all different. So 20.1 is the most recent version. I'm on 0.19.1. Some people are on 0.18 and even earlier. So the one on my Mac, if we can check the version. So I'm on 0.19.0.1. So everyone's on a different version. So that way, if a bug is introduced in, say, version 20, then I don't have that bug. So I can tell everyone who upgraded to 20 that they are wrong, and then people will find the bug and either fix it, or if they're really dishonest, they won't fix it, and I will break my connection with these people and ignore them. So that way you'll have a split where you have the honest people and the dishonest people in different networks, and the honest network is maintained. It maintains its integrity. So yeah, that's how it works. It's worked pretty flawlessly. There have been some bugs and there have been some invalid transactions, and people have noticed them and fixed the bugs and reversed those transactions as they came up. But generally it works pretty flawlessly. Yeah. Any other questions? Or?
So what if I send money to someone like on the internet, but I don't actually receive my goods or like whatever service they're supposed to provide me? Mm-hmm. How does it go then?
That's a difficult thing for now, because you shouldn't send Bitcoin on the internet to people you don't trust. So if you're selling to Amazon, I would say you should send them Bitcoin and expect your goods. But since if you find a random website on the internet and you don't trust them, I would say don't send them Bitcoin on the internet, because you can't get your Bitcoin back if they don't send you the goods.
Yeah.
So that is it's a different trust model than US dollar credit card kind of thing. If you pay with a credit card, you can always call your credit card company and withdraw the transaction.
Yeah.
Up to 90 days afterwards. The thing about it, the reason that's not just a fault is that because their credit cards can reverse transactions, that's the reason you have to pay 2 to 3% on every credit card transaction. Every merchant who accepts credit cards pays Visa or MasterCard 2 to 3% on each credit card transaction. So when you have ultimate irreversibility, then there's no need for a third party to say, this is a fraud and I'm going to reverse this transaction, but this isn't, and I'm going to allow this one, which is what Visa essentially does every time someone calls and tries to get a transaction reversed. So that's how it works, is that Bitcoin's like an ultimate settlement, and then you can build layers on top of it, like the Lightning Network. You can reverse a transaction on the Lightning Network, which might make it more suitable for merchants, where they can refund you, or you can even ask for your money back, take your money back if they cheat you. So that's kind of the answer. Okay, if no one else has any questions, I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing. I'm gonna show you how to download and run a full node, but if you're not interested, feel free to leave and I'll just add this to YouTube later. It's quite easy. It doesn't involve any technical knowledge to run a Bitcoin node. It just requires 300 to 400 gigabytes of storage space. So you probably don't want to fill up your whole laptop with it on. But if you have an old computer, or if you just buy a hard drive, it's quite easy to do. So
yeah, that doesn't really interest me right now. I've kind of started getting my head around it. So
yeah, no, absolutely. Any other questions or?
No, I think I'm good. Like, I don't know if I understood everything, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, no, definitely. It takes time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll see you.
Bye.